I have heard the phrase facilitated leadership. What does that mean? It's not a set answer, but it's a rolling answer that we self-discover as we go along. Facilitation is really about helping deal with existential questions, like who we are and what are our values and what is our, what is our purpose here, and that's part of what we're doing as facilitators, is helping people both individually and collectively work on those questions. That's when I come to this question of what is facilitated leadership. For me, it calls me to re-ask that question. Okay, what is it really? What are we really talking about? I think the ultimate challenge for the facilitators right now is to handle the unexpected, to handle the challenge that comes up if you are doing good facilitation. We have this. It has been an incredible time as far as developing lots and lots of tools over the last 20 years so that we can handle a whole range of very large groups, of very complex questions. And it's very easy to just become part of the tool and use it and march people through it. But oftentimes what will happen, particularly if you're doing the job well, is you get to the point where someone in the group will say, we're not talking about what we need to be talking about, or you're not hearing me, or I don't need this. And that's where you're called as a facilitator to be there, to hold the space, to allow that differentiation to take place without having it, spark, without having, allowing the person to leave, but using that as a way to really go much deeper, understanding of who we are and where we are and what is the issue that we're working on. The first reaction when I get in those situations, you take a deep breath, and hopefully you'll be able to hold it there. But then, the alternative is also dropping back onto the group because they may have a better insight about what is actually going on there, and that's also a very important capacity. In some respects, by learning how to do facilitation in China before my Chinese ability was very strong, was actually a great opportunity because I had to learn how to design processes without understanding what people were saying as they were going through these processes. Well, I suppose when you're not hearing everything, you have a certain tendency to trust a little bit more on the process. And you have to work on your authenticity, that you're creating the trust levels with the group. You can't create commitment. I don't think that you can create commitment in yourself. And this is a lot of, people come to me, can you create commitment for my teams? I don't think that, doing and telling people, give them a good phrase and, say we're all committed in this. I don't think you create commitment that way. I believe that people discover themselves to be in commitment. And that's the dilemma of the facilitator, is that you really can't do what we're supposed to be, what we're being called for by the people who hire us, that supposedly we're going to do this, we're going to help them, build plants, and we're going to help them be committed and help them. Well, actually, we don't do that. But we can create spaces and that sort which allow them to do it themselves. I think our request here is use this to stretch your own thinking about leadership. Hopefully we'll be able to capture some of that insight to deepen the understanding of what these ideas are and what our sense of this new sense of leadership is.
To me, is about the ability to know what is needed and do what is needed. Every time again, in every context. That makes the concept itself quite difficult to grasp, because it's not about leading people, it's not about having followers, it's about the ability to know what is needed in this moment. And that is what facilitation, I think, is about. It's like a dance. It's a dance of pushing and holding back, and like seeing openings, using humor, using enormous amounts of humor. I think seriousness is a huge trap. It's a huge trap. That's why humor is so incredible. It's opening context and making space, and I like to call it play, but that's I think in the moments that there is real flow, it feels like play. It feels totally not serious. It's very much innocent without being naive. I did a lot of work with activists in Egypt recently, and to say it bluntly, the majority of the country is totally depressed. They're kind of aware of their incapability, which is a painful phase, but necessary. And they feel also kind of guilty for the fact that they've created the situation. And not everybody, but it's a pretty decent group. That we have created this because we went out with all our innocence, with all our passion, with all our... A lot of people died. We died we fought for this other world, and now we're back in shit way more than we had before. And the humor of looking at that situation and saying like, listen, whoa, we as humans, look at the mess we create, look at how we're muddling about, how incredible. And to have compassion for the situation, together with a kind of humor of, whoa, what have we created? How? Because it's tragic and humorous at the same time. But the humor creates compassion and creates the ability to start accepting that this is what it is. And that help is a way to get out of the depression again and to feel, okay, we can start building something at least again. And to see that happening on a collective scale is quite fascinating to watch. And that the individuals that manage to do that are really role models that are quite powerful. They don't consider themselves a victim. They don't believe in rapid change, or they don't believe in the illusion of fast transition. They have a certain unwavering faith in, like, let's say, like a meta movement, as in they can zoom out and say, okay, but on the bigger scale of things, you know, we see that people are becoming more aware. We can see that there's movement, but if you are zooming in on the individual, it's still pretty tough, so they can zoom out. Well, intelligence also matters, actually. Intelligence is quite useful. It really helps. Or maybe the ability to look from an abstract level from time to time. That's probably the difference, not necessarily intelligence. I think one of the things that was very wonderful in this setting is that we could say, you know what, guys, we are born and we die, and in between we have time to make each other happy. If that is the thing that we can constantly remind ourselves of in the whole process of working together, and if it gets complicated, just remind yourself of that. That's wonderful.
For me, facilitating is empower the group. I think that's the bottom line. I'm very much engaged with facilitating leadership, because when you look at a lot of leaders, let's start negative. When you look at a lot of leaders, they think that they have knowledge, that they have the power, they have the knowledge, and they know what's good for people. And what I've found out during my 22 years now with the Ministry of Transport in the Netherlands is that I don't have the knowledge. Maybe I have some power, but I don't have the power. But together with my staff, with my people, with my colleagues, we have an enormous power. I was maybe flabbergasted by the enormous influence you can have on people, on motivating them, empowering them. And I found out that I wasn't doing it. People were doing it themselves. My first management job, I spent a few days talking to my 30 people staff, sitting on their heater in their room. What are you doing here? What do you like the most? What do you hate? What are the little stones in your shoes? And some people said that nobody ever had asked these kinds of questions. And they were very enthusiastic because then somebody was listening to them. My father always said, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. So that's because listening is very hard, but God helped us with 2 ears. And so start there. And I'm not a good listener, but I'm trying every day to do it a little bit better. Maybe humbleness is a very important competence that you need for facilitating leadership. When you send less signals, you learn that people have very interesting things to say. And when you're still sending, and let's get going, we have to do a job, then you don't know what's really going around. I think a facilitator, maybe his main competence are his sensors. sensing what's going around, sensing who's in charge of the team, who are the followers. The leadership of followers is a very interesting team. How can you help the followers? But also, who are the people who are maybe very important for the process, but do not say so many things. And I'm always puzzled by the people who say only 3 or 4 words in a discussion, but the most important words. Inviting people and receiving not just what they're saying, but what they're meaning, so that a deeper level reaches me, and them, so that they come to a deeper level. It's not a trick, not being silent or whatever, but being polite, being inviting. Just a hand to somebody is maybe more important than 5 words or 10 lines. And being humble is maybe even more difficult than good listening. But maybe it helps. I think it helps me in being a better facilitator or a better listener. Maybe just by being there. I walked with my son to the top of the Machu Picchu, to this beautiful town in Peru. And just walking 4 days, that's easy, but not going to 4,200 meters high. And we were very tired, the 2 of us, but so happy, because we did this job. And I was so happy to do it with him. I said to myself, Laurens, you're not going to make any decision. Your son is doing all the decision work. And I invited him, at what time shall we go with the bus? And he said, well, 7 o'clock. I said, okay, 7 o'clock. Or what time shall we start tomorrow morning or whatever? Do you want to have lunch? Because otherwise we wouldn't have lunch. And I wanted to have lunch, but I made him make all the decisions. And that made me very happy. So I wasn't the boss of this trip. I was maybe the facilitator, but the friend, the colleague, not his father. Together, as a team. And I had to shut my mouth sometimes. I said, okay, no, stop here, don't talk, no more questions. And that's the same in work. Yeah. I want to really invite people sharing their knowledge, experience on new ways of facilitating. Maybe I don't want to use the word techniques, but new ideas about facilitating, where you empower the group. Show us the power of facilitating leadership, so that we can embrace the benefits of it for our work. We can't do this alone. We really need you. So help us. But I won't say it's easy. I won't say it's easy to work with groups. I know excellent facilitators, but when they did an easy job, maybe I don't trust that. No.
The reason I have such an affinity for facilitative leadership is because I think, first of all, it's the missing link in a lot of today's leadership. The way I see facilitative leadership as different to the normal planning and, designing an event and then following that agenda. Often the client will like that agenda to be followed very closely. The way I see facilitative leadership as different to that is that the agenda is simply the starting point, and it's the comfort factor that we have a sense of where we think it might go, and at least there's a plan for the point from which we are at now. But literally, as soon as things start, you have the realness of humans in the room and the combination of humans beautifully creating something that you can never plan for. So there's a big bandwidth within us that I like to keep free so that it has the capacity to be aware of what's knocking at the door, what's just maybe outside of our awareness sometimes, and is telling us things. And it can be just an unsettling feeling of, yes, everything's going to plan, but there's a slightly unsettling feeling, and that's very useful information. And sometimes I don't know what that feeling is, but simply staying present to it, it's never failed me to do that, because it sometimes makes sense later. Or I'll suggest something and I sometimes don't know why I'm suggesting it, but I trust that feeling now, and then it doesn't fail me when I trust that feeling. The awareness that I'm looking out for as soon as I start the facilitative leadership work really would be to listen from a different place. And there's a challenge of communicating that to a client who might not be aware of such things. And I always believe that there'll be some evidence for that in some way in the group somewhere. I like the people in the room to feel as comfortable as they possibly can, and sometimes I do see the facilitative leader having to be a bridge between things that they're sensitive to and things that are evident in the room. I try my best to find that link, and to, so part of me is looking for the deeper patterns. What is the metaphor here? What's the bigger story that has brought us here, and how is it playing out in the room? If you care enough, and I think it is important to care for everyone who's present, everyone has a stake there in some way, and they're all important. And some people have a lot more difficulty than others about unclear processes, about where there's confusion or chaos. Others are much more comfortable. And for those who have more difficulty with that, this can be quite a healing role to, in fact, experience something where the chaos has a place. It makes sense, and they can be shown that, in fact, it's allowing a creativity to be nurtured, and that will benefit the process. And there is a structure overall. It just may not be the structure that people are used to working with. Someone I have a lot of respect for said, an architect who works with living buildings, buildings that breathe, said, nature generates processes that generate form. And that for me is actually maps into what the facilitator does. We generate together with others processes that generate forms. Forms of very real things that we can emerge together in the world. Could be ideas, structures, new ventures. And these come out of very invisible processes. So we are sculpting those processes in real time. And we're looking to sense something that we couldn't know in advance and guide it into being in the way that feels right for everybody, and the way that feels in line with the deeper purpose, the collective purpose that includes the purpose of all individuals present. So it's quite a beautiful challenge, the role of this facilitative leader in that sense of translating between two worlds.